DJ Small, DJ Small, DJ Small, DJ Small.
I know I gave it months ago.
In part one, we talked about the core dimension. In part two, we will be talking about primary, which touches on race, age, ethnicity, nationality, origin, gender, sexual orientation, physical and mental abilities. In dealing with the primary dimension, my worldview on age is basically the older you are, the wiser you are. That may not be the case in some aspects, but in my experience, the older you are, you pass down what you've learned to the younger generation. I feel race is an ongoing topic because no, it has not gotten as far as it needs to be, but it has made improvements. Now, as far as ethnicity and nationality origin, um, this is personal to me because my father is from Panama. So there is a whole other side that I have to get to know because I only met my father 6 years ago. So there's a whole lot that I don't know about half of me that over the past years I've been getting to know him. I've met my family on that side, and it really has been a culture shock. Um, and I'm starting to grasp hold of my nationality, that I'm not just one, I'm something else entirely as well. But it's all rooted in the same, if that makes any sense. As far as gender is concerned, I've always grown up. Um, my mother always told me girls do this way and boys do that way. Girls should like pink. Girls should learn how to cook to keep her man around. Girls should have their hair long and flowy and pretty. Well, I grew up with my stepfather and my mom. And my stepfather, he got me into sports. Like, I love to watch football. And I was basically what you would call a tomboy, except for when I went to church. That's when mom took creative control and was like, hey, you're going to wear this dress. I'm going to hot comb your hair. You're going to wear these gloves and you're going to wear this hat and you're going to love it. And it was the most itchy thing I've ever felt in my life. Um, as far as sexual orientation, um, I really do not care who someone else sleeps with, what they identify with, as far as being gay, lesbian, straight. It's when people try to force those beliefs on others. Personally, I feel like I am bisexual because I have an attraction to both male and female, but I don't go out and shout to the world, hey, I'm bisexual, look at me, da da da. That's between me and whoever I'm with. Um, I understand people want to come out and they want to be accepted. I understand that. But you also have to understand that people grew up around other folk that are basically hateful and have actually been taught to hate people who are different, people who think differently, people who think open minded. And that is where the problem comes in, I think, for the LGBT community. The development of my cultural identity would have to have been, my mother and the way we grew up. My mother always taught me, don't ever look like what you've been through. Meaning, the first part of my life, it was, well, all of my life, I was with a single parent household um, until I met my father 6 years ago. Now we're starting to talk more, and he's telling me things that I should have known as a child but didn't. Um, he's telling me how things were when he grew up, how his culture was, his family was, and it's not very different from how my mom grew up. He had a big family. Um, it was it was um, racism, even in Panama. It was just they were in a different part of the world. It was basically the same struggles. Um, but he did say, America's a lot different from Panama. Um, as far as culture is concerned, you don't see uh, families stick together more in Panama than they do here in America. Um, but as far as my mom and my dad, there really isn't much difference. So I think I kind of would have learned what I've learned at my mother's side of the family. I would have learned the same thing of my dad's. The mirror window connection that I have, it would be mirror. And I say mirror because in the beginning, Janie was doing everything her grandmother wanted her to do. You know, her grandmother wanted her to marry this man, so she married this man. And then taking that what she was learned, she married another man. All she didn't necessarily love him. She just did it because he offered protection and security. And, you know, she was safe. And that's what her grandmother instilled in her, you know. But when she met Tea Cake, he was nothing like what she was used to. And so it was different. So when he died, you know, she finally realized she did something she wanted to do. And I can identify with that because, you know, as we grow up, we have these values, we have these morals that are taught to us. But when we grow up and go into the world ourselves, we see different things. And it's like, hey, why am I doing this way when there's another way? So I agree with her because I do things a little differently than my mom would like for me to do. But I'm at peace with myself. Janie found peace when she started accepting the things that she wanted to do, you know, no matter what anyone else says. And I can identify with that aspect alone. The peace that she found when she started doing things her way, whether people liked it or not. So, the theoretical framework that I've put to this particular literary work would be B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning. Um, this basically is when an individual associates a particular behavior and a consequence. Basically, they see something happen, like if they, for example, steal a piece of candy and they see that, hey, uh, this is a bad consequence. You know, I know not to do that again. You know, that will be an example of operant conditioning. Um, I put that with this book because when Janie was, you know, married to her husbands, she had what the old folks down south would call a slick mouth. And every time she would try to speak her mind, her husbands would hit her. So pretty soon, Janie just, you know, just stopped speaking her mind until she met Tea Cake. But in that particular setting, she had lost herself, you know, especially when she was with Joe Starks, the mayor of Eatonville. Um, he would, there was no love after a few years. He would beat her, you know, she would loud talk him and in public. And that's how I also picked this because that's how children, you know, they learn right from wrong. And I think that was important because that's how I learned. um, some of the trends that I've seen in society as far as primary dimensions, I've seen people look down on older people. Um, ageism. They think, okay, older people, they're old, they don't really need, you know, they're on their way out anyway, so let's just put them in a nursing home. No, they need activity, they need therapy, they need anything because they're entering into a new dimension in their life, and it can be very difficult for some of them. They get depressed, they want to commit suicide, things like that. So personally, I would not put any of my grandparents nor my mother into a nursing home because people put their older relatives in nursing homes and forget all about them. They don't care. Trends about race in this country are at an all-time high. It's like the racism, the prejudice is blatant, and people need to realize it's not right at all. Ethnicity, national origin. I've seen a lot of, cultures in America. Um, and I think it's better for America to have all of these cultures in one place because we get to learn from each other. Um, Gender and sexual orientation um, is becoming part of the norm as far as sexual orientation, which it should be. It's no one's business who you sleep with. If you're free and you want to be gay, that's fine. You know, um, Gender, we've seen a lot. The new thing is gender non-binary, um, and all the other names. And I don't disagree with it. I don't disagree with it. Um, it's not hurting anyone. If a man wants to be a woman or a woman wants to be a man, it's not hurting anybody. They're not committing any crime. They just want to be known what they want to be known as. That's it. That is all. And people get so up in arms and want to bring religion into it, and that it's not that difficult to understand. Um, Physical and mental abilities. Um, there's been a height in when people say, "Hey, I'm depressed." Is usually, you know, especially in the black community, you don't tell anybody that you're depressed. You don't go to a therapist. You go to church, and that was it. You know, things that may have happened in the home, you keep it in the home. No, there has been an influx in people going to therapy, talking about past traumas and child traumas, and I am all for it, because a lot of people have committed suicide and have been depressed because they haven't been able to talk to anyone about it. I would advocate for oppressed populations by first learning about them for myself, learning why are they going so hard for this one issue? Why is it important to them? You know, um, my place is to not judge them. You know, if I advocate for something, I'm going to put my all into it. I'm going to say, hey, this is why they're advocating for this. But first, I have to do my homework and be able to understand what they're advocating about. All I know is what I've seen, before talking to anyone. What I've seen is a lot of commotion and confusion. And if I want to properly and effectively advocate for them, I need to know why this is happening. Why do you want this? And how to effectively do it. How to effectively um, speak up for those people who don't have a voice. I would utilize their eyes of watching God with stakeholders or group, because they may be someone who is in a position where they don't know what to do. They don't feel like themselves. They don't want to be in a place that they've been in and what they've known. You know, if they try to change, it goes against whatever they've been taught. And so this book will give them the stepping stone, the encouragement they need to say, hey, I may lose the thing that I want, the thing that I desire, the thing that I need for me, but in the end, I'll I can be able to say, hey, I've done this because I wanted to. I did this because it made me happy, and I am at peace no matter what anyone else says or what anyone else does or tries to say about me.